Right now on Good Morning America, first look, the U.S. attack on Iran. More airstrikes across the region overnight. A U.S. fighter jet crashing in Kuwait, one of several U.S. warplanes that have reportedly crashed hours after the first American casualties were confirmed.
And President Trump speaking to ABC News about just how long this military operation could take. Who could replace Iran's supreme leader killed in the initial wave of attacks.
And now, as people from New York to L.A. to Tehran celebrate what the future may hold, we take a closer look at the questions and concerns.
Plus, the impact on gas prices and how members of Congress are reacting and responding to President Trump's actions.
From ABC News, this is Good Morning America, First Look.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm Hannah Batam.
And I'm Faith Abube in for Sophie. We begin with the new strikes today stemming from the U.S. attack on Iran that killed Iran's supreme leader.
Yeah, we've seen airstrikes across the Middle East overnight, from Lebanon to Kuwait. 3 Americans have lost their lives. A new video overnight shows a U.S. fighter jet crashing in Kuwait, one of several American warplanes that have reportedly crashed in that country. Local officials say all crew members there were able to survive. It was not immediately clear what led to those crashes. President Trump spoke to ABC News overnight about how long this military operation could last, but he has not yet publicly answered questions about these attacks.
And the region is now engulfed in this conflict with attacks across the Persian Gulf states, including Qatar, where ABC's Marcus Moore begins our coverage this morning. Marcus, what is it like there right now on the ground?
Well, Faith and Hannah, good to be with you this morning. There's just so much happening here in the region. Here in Qatar, we got the new emergency alerts that went out to cell phones this morning. And we've heard more loud booms here in Doha, likely those air defense interceptors intercepting projectiles. Meanwhile, overnight, President Trump indicated just how long the attacks on Iran could last.
Overnight, President Trump giving new insight into the military action in Iran, telling ABC News the U.S. attacks could last 4 or 5 more weeks. His statement coming just hours after the announcement that 3 American service members were killed during an Iranian attack in Kuwait.
We grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, and sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more.
The U.S. and Israel striking more than 2,000 targets inside Iran Sunday, the second day of airstrikes. Central Command releasing new video showing the U.S. destroying what appeared to be Iranian fighter jets, drones, and ballistic missile launchers, among other military targets.
The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives.
Israel claims roughly half of Iran's ballistic missile launchers have now been destroyed. But Iran is responding. At least 9 people were killed when an Iranian missile hit this Israeli shelter in a synagogue. And at least 5 others were killed across the Persian Gulf states as Iran deployed missiles and drones at military and civilian targets. A drone blasting this residential building in Bahrain. Video from the building shows the moment of impact. In Dubai, this luxury hotel going up in flames. And in Qatar, people running for their lives.
You can see the air defense interceptors going into the air in those bright flashes of orange. And you can also hear the loud booms. This is what we've been hearing in Doha all day today.
In Kuwait, those 3 American service members who were killed were reportedly part of a unit overseeing supplies and logistics. 5 others were injured. And inside Iran, the death toll is rising, with more than 1,000 people reportedly killed since the U.S. and Israeli attacks began Saturday. State media claims an airstrike on this girls' school left more than 153 people dead, including students. The U.S. is investigating, insisting it would never deliberately attack civilians. Iranians taking to the streets, some celebrating, others mourning the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. He was killed in a strike Saturday. The CIA had been tracking the 86-year-old for months. Sources say agents learned about a meeting of top leaders with the Ayatollah planned for Saturday, prompting the U.S. and Israel to strike. President Trump over the weekend justifying the attack.
They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles.
But some experts question whether Iran posed an imminent threat, saying the country was far from acquiring the resources needed to build a nuclear weapon, especially after the strikes on nuclear facilities back in June. President Trump acknowledged the new strikes are to some degree preemptive.
We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. We're doing this not for now, we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission.
And President Trump says the new potential leaders of Iran have indicated that they want to talk. And we saw the Interim Leadership Council meeting this weekend, but Trump did not elaborate on plans for any future U.S. negotiations. Hannah, Faith.
Marcus, quick question before you go. Many people here in the U.S. are wondering what kind of power Iran has to attack the U.S. What do we know about their capabilities?
Well, Hannah, Iran can launch attacks through its proxies like Hezbollah. They could target soft diplomatic and also civilian facilities in Europe or in the U.S. And the FBI has actually already placed intelligence teams on high alert. And we also know that patrols in big cities have been stepped up. But there's also one potential risk, and that's cyber attacks targeting the infrastructure in the U.S. Iran has already had some success in carrying out those types of attacks in the past. Hannah.
Marcus, thank you. At least 22 people are dead after violence in Pakistan. Police say hundreds of pro-Iranian demonstrators stormed the U.S. consulate in Karachi. Clashes with police also left more than 120 people injured.
And of course, the big question now is, what's next for Iran? Will a more pro-American government take the place of the Ayatollah? Experts say it's complicated. Here's ABC's Allison Cossack.
This morning, celebrations around the world.
USA! USA!
In New York, hundreds gathering at the UN before walking to Times Square in support of the U.S. strikes on Iran.
I'm just so happy for the people. I just want to be there. I personally cannot wait to go back to visit my country without fear of getting arrested, getting killed, getting tortured for not wanting to cover my hair.
In Los Angeles, celebrations mixed with anxiety about the future.
We want our families first and foremost safe, and I think that that's the anxiousness.
Across Iran, celebrations large and small. But in Tehran's main square, a likely organized demonstration of support for the regime, including chants of death to America. With Iran's supreme leader and his top military brass dead, the question's now, what's next, and who replaces the Iranian regime if it falls?
3 or 4 million people pour into the streets. I think that the regime will have to step back. There will be fissures and breaks within the military, and then we'll be into the next phase of getting rid of this regime and moving into a new one, something that people have dreamed of for many, many years.
The potential players in the possible succession scenario could include Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah overthrown by the Islamic Revolution in 1979.
Millions of Iranians inside Iran and outside of Iran are calling my name. They recognize in me the person uniquely placed to play a role of transitional leadership.
But other possibilities from inside Iran could be the late Ayatollah's second oldest child, Mojtaba Khomeini, and Ali Larijani, a former military officer in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC.
It's important to point out just how the elimination of Khomeini is good for the world, the region, and for the people in Iran. But strategically, the question is then going to be, are we going to end up with a government that is even less inclined to work with the United States or work with the region? Or are they going to be even more hardline? Because most analysts, and more importantly, the intelligence community, believes it's the IRGC. It's likely going to completely take over. And to some estimations, they are more hardline than even the supreme leader was.
President Trump told the New York Times he has, quote, 3 very good choices for who could lead Iran, but he says he won't reveal them now. It could be weeks or months before we know whether Iranians will rise up to demand a new kind of leadership in their country. Meanwhile, back here in the U.S., events are planned across the country tonight to protest U.S. military intervention. Faith, Hannah?
Allison, thank you. Top members of Congress are expected to receive a classified briefing today on the U.S. military action in Iran. Several lawmakers have already made their positions for and against the attacks pretty clear.
So, yeah, there is a threat. It's not imminent that can happen right now, but it's one that I think it's entirely appropriate to deal with it, and that's why I support it. So, again, people keep described that it was a legal war. Now, read the War Powers Act, and now that has not been violated at this point.
I'm rooting for democracy in Iran, but the most likely outcome here is that hardliners take over the government. They restart their missile program, they restart their nuclear program.
Iran in the future will no longer be the largest state sponsor of terrorism. The mothership of terrorism is sinking. The captain is dead.
I saw no intelligence that Iran was on the verge of launching any kind of preemptive strike against the United States of America. It is a real situation right now. We have had very little visibility into what happens next after the Supreme Leader is eliminated.
House lawmakers are expected to vote Thursday on whether to restrict President Trump's war powers. Our coverage of the attack on Iran continues in a few moments with the impact on gas prices and the mass shooting in Texas, possibly linked to Iran. Those stories just ahead.
And time now for your Monday weather.
Good Monday morning. We're waking up to a brief cold blast over parts of the Northeast, sending wind chills down to 0 or below portions of New England, including the Boston area, single numbers and teens elsewhere. Also watching some mixed precipitation and snow over parts of the Ohio Valley, reaching the nation's capital by later on today. Some mixed precip. Freezing rain may be getting into the New York City area during the day tomorrow, changing over to rainfall. Snow could be heavy, steady at least, over portions of eastern New York into New England, maybe 3 to 6 inches by later on tomorrow. Meteorologist Jeff Smith, ABC News.
Coming up, a deadly case of road rage on a major interstate.
And also ahead, the rescue nearly 1,000 feet in the air after a hot air balloon crashes into a tower.
And just how much gas prices could rise after the U.S. attack on Iran. We're back now with oil prices rising about 10% overnight after the U.S. attacks on Iran. As a result, experts say gas prices in the U.S. could rise by 10 to 12 cents in the next 2 weeks to an average of about $3.10 per gallon.
Police in Northern Virginia say a violent case of road rage left 2 people dead. Police responding to a crash found a man carrying a knife and 4 people at the scene with stab wounds. They say an officer fatally shot the suspect in self-defense. One stabbing victim also died.
Now to Texas and the hot air balloon rescue nearly 1,000 feet up. A sky-high rescue in northeast Texas after a hot air balloon got caught in this communications tower. A man and woman trapped more than 900 feet in the air.
This is not an everyday rescue. We had to not only get up, extricate the patients out of the basket of the balloon into the tower, but then hand them off rope by rope.
Those firefighters climbing up the tower with 45 pounds of gear on their backs.
So climbing 1,000 feet up, 1,000 feet down for some of them with a bunch of heavy gear and rope is a very physically taxing event.
The rescue taking more than 4 hours.
As we teach rope classes, this is exactly one of the scenarios we talk about. It's kind of the Super Bowl of rope rescue.
This man says his cousin was in the balloon.
I said, well, we're going to go by there and see what's going on, and sure enough, we get here, we got a message from a local preacher, asking for a prayer chain, and that's how we found out.
A specialized crew is now working to remove the balloon and basket.
There's one little wire up there, and it's hung up on it. They had all that space, and they ran into that one little wire. It's wild.
A radio station that uses that tower was knocked off the air for hours during that ordeal.
All right, we have a lot more coming up here. Ticketmaster goes on trial amid outrage over the high price of concert tickets.
But first, the deadly mass shooting in Texas, possibly linked to Iran. Well, if you're just waking up, here's the latest from the Middle East. After the U.S. started attacks on Iran this weekend, Iran's top national security official now says his country will not negotiate with the U.S. Comes after President Trump said that Iran's interim leaders want to speak with him. Iran has launched a series of attacks on U.S. allies in the region, including in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, where 3 U.S. service members were killed. A new poll shows only 27% of Americans approve of U.S. military action against Iran.
And just hours after the U.S. attacks began, police in Texas responded to a mass shooting with a potential link to Iran.
Gunfire outside a popular bar in Austin, Texas this weekend, now being linked potentially to terrorism. Police say the shooter first opened fire from his SUV at patrons outside the bar.
Oh my God!
Then got out with a rifle and shot people in the street. 2 people were killed, 14 others wounded. People inside sheltering for safety.
Close it! Close it! Close it! Close it!
Sources say this photo obtained by ABC News shows the suspect, a 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen originally from Senegal in West Africa. His sweatshirt with the words "Property of Allah." Sources say his undershirt also had the word Iran with an Iranian flag.
There were indicators that on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism.
Within 1 minute of the first call for help, police confronting the gunman, fatally shooting him. 3 victims remain in critical condition overnight.
We have families that are at hospital rooms waiting for outcomes from surgery. That's the reality of what we're dealing with today.
And while officials try to determine if avenging Iran was a motive here, they're also looking into whether the suspect had mental health issues.
A trial that could change the way concert tickets are sold begins today in New York. The Justice Department and dozens of states want to split up Ticketmaster from its parent company, Live Nation. The suit claims Live Nation is a monopoly. Live Nation denies that, saying artists can decide how tickets are sold. Coming up, a special honor for a beloved actress.
And also, the item on the shelf at this store, that was actually the real thing.
Time to check the pulse. We begin with the Screen Actors Guild Awards honoring Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, the actress who passed away back in January. She won her 4th award from SAG last night for her role in the Apple television series The Studio, bringing people in the audience there to tears. The show's creator, Seth Rogen, accepted the award on her behalf. Meanwhile, Michael B. Jordan took home Best Actor for Sinners, raising his odds of winning the Best Actor Oscar. Next, the special item on the shelf at a New York antique store.
It was a real hoot, you could say. People browsing the aisles saw this brown and white owl next to a cookie jar shaped like a chicken. Turns out it was a real owl who flew in and just wanted to take a nap there.
And an officer eventually got it back outside where it belongs. And next, LeBron James' daughter showing her stuff on the court.
Zuri James traveled to San Francisco with dad, and watch as she nailed this backwards overhead shot from the free throw line. The 11-year-old also setting up dad for a dunk. LeBron calls her his good luck charm. Understandably so. Checking more top stories, several U.S. warplanes have reportedly crashed in Kuwait. One was seen crashing toward the ground, but local officials say crew members from all the planes survived.
And President Trump says the White House had identified possible candidates to lead Iran after the Ayatollah's death. But Trump now says the U.S. attack was so successful it knocked out most of the candidates. He says U.S. attacks could last up to another 5 weeks. 3 American troops have died. The Pentagon is holding a news conference this morning.
The U.S. Supreme Court hears arguments today over a law that bans unlawful drug users from possessing firearms. The Trump administration will argue that the ban should be upheld.
And the late Reverend Jesse Jackson will lie in state today in South Carolina at the Capitol building there. Jackson was born in South Carolina. A service in Washington has now been postponed.
Today's weather, rain and snow in the Northwest and the Northern Rockies, and rain from the plains all the way to the Mid-Atlantic today.
And finally, when the job of coach runs in the family.
Danny New spoke to father and son.
He started the rebound.
In Tarboro, North Carolina, there are technically 2 Coach Besses for the high school basketball team.
Should I call you Coach Chris, little Coach Chris?
Whatever you want to call me.
All right, I like calling you Coach Chris.
Coach Reggie Bess is the head coach for the men's team, and over the past few years, his now 6-year-old son, Chris, has become famous both on social media and in town for his coaching role.
What do you like to do with the guys?
Coach him.
Coach them?
It's an honor.
Reggie says Chris started mimicking him on the sidelines even before he could talk, and it grew from there. Now it's at the point where Chris likes to dress as a coach even when he's at home.
He'll go get a Nike sweatsuit 2 or 3 times throughout the night or throughout the day.
Of course, Chris has much more freedom in practice, but on game days,
What y'all got going on? Making me look bad.
Chris usually stays near an assistant coach at the end of the bench and has the important job of bringing Dad his clipboard and marker when it's time to draw up plays.
Sometimes during the game, we have to tell him to get off the court. You know, telling Christopher that on game day is like talking to a brick wall.
You're a football player, and you're getting out there acting like you don't know what you're doing.
And while at this point, Reggie can often predict what Coach Chris is going to say,
Big time players make big time plays in big time games.
he still has a challenge for his son as he chases his dreams of one day becoming head coach too.
You know, you got a young son that wants to be like you when he grows up. And like I tell him, I don't want him to be like me. I want him to be better.
Now, guys, Reggie says he does think about retirement sometimes, but Chris says he's simply not allowed to for at least another decade, so he has a chance to coach Chris one day.
What a handful.
Right, that would be something. That's your Good Morning America First Look.
Have a great day.